Chapter 5. Clean-up Crew. Calla had made something new. She had sent word through Devrin before breakfast. Meet at the square, don't ask questions. Noah had come because not asking questions from Calla usually meant something sharp, illegal, or both. Also because she had asked. It fit in one hand, all bent wire, scavenged wood, and 2 strings pulled tight around a sharpened scrap of metal. Calla held it low against her palm, her mouth set in concentration, then pressed the little trigger on the side. The scrap snapped forward and buried itself in the post of an overturned trader's stall. Noah's mouth opened. "What is that?" "A hand bow," Calla said. From behind the stall, a trader's head appeared. His face shifted from the metal lodged in the wood to Calla, slow and disbelieving. She nudged Noah with her elbow. "Go get it." "Yeah, right," Noah said. "I like my hands attached." Devrin snorted and kicked a rotten scrap of festival food across the stone. "You know, most people wait until after breakfast to get us banned from the market." Last night's celebration had left the square gutted. Half the stalls sat crooked or overturned. Spilled liquor dried in sticky patches across the causeway. Vomit streaked the stone near the music platform, and crushed paper crowns lay trampled under boot prints and gray dust. "You 3." The voice was not loud. It did not need to be. Noah turned so fast his bruised ribs pulled tight. Marcus Hale stood beside the overturned stall with his hands clasped behind his back, gray cuffs clean despite the filth around him. 3 white pillars sat stitched beneath a gray arch on each cuff. He was not a big man. He did not have Devrin's shoulders or Gunner Carr's quarry-built bulk. But half his face was a ruined map of old burns and scar tissue, pulled tight around one eye, and the other half looked just as mean by choice. The trader's anger vanished the moment he saw him. A woman sweeping glass near the next stall bowed her head and found somewhere else to be busy. Calla lowered the handbow behind her leg. Marcus counted the scene in pieces, the scrap of metal buried in the stall post, Calla's hidden hand, Noah's swollen face, Devrin's boot planted beside a smear of rotten festival food. "You look idle," Marcus said. Devrin straightened. "We're not." "No?" Marcus took in the wreckage of the square. "Then you'll have no trouble finding work." Calla's expression flattened in the dangerous way. Marcus nodded toward the square like the mess itself was evidence. "Clean-up detail. The 3 of you report here every morning after lessons. I want this place spotless by next month." Devrin's jaw dropped. "A month?" Marcus did not move. Devrin recovered fast, puffing himself up the way he did when he thought his size might count for something. "Did my dad sign off on this?" For the first time, Marcus turned fully to him. "Carr is a useful name in the quarries," Marcus said. "This is not a quarry." Devrin's face darkened. He had already outgrown most boys his age, broad through the shoulders and tall enough that smaller adults had to lift their chins to face him. Marcus did not lift his. He stepped close enough that Devrin had to angle his chin down, and somehow that made Marcus seem taller. "In Hale zones, Hale rules stand. If your father has a complaint, he knows where to file it." Noah had never heard anyone talk about Gunner Carr like that. Not openly, not without lowering their voice first. Marcus turned his scarred face back toward the square. "Buckets are behind the scaffold, scrapers beside the drain trench. If I come back and find you playing with scrap again, I'll assign you to waste lines instead." Calla's fingers tightened around the handbow. Marcus angled his head toward her. "And if that thing fires again, I keep it." Calla smiled thinly. "Then I guess I'd better not miss." Noah stopped breathing. For one long second, Marcus said nothing. Then the corner of his scarred mouth twitched, not quite a smile and nowhere close to kindness. "Careful, Lo," he said. "Some people mistake clever for protected." Then he walked away, leaving them standing in the wreckage of the festival with a month of punishment spread out at their feet. The buckets were cracked. The scrapers were dull. One brush had half its bristles bent flat, and the other looked like someone had tried to use it on stone, bone, and maybe a bad conscience. Noah stared at the pile. "He gave us trash." Devrin crouched and picked up one of the scrapers, testing the edge with his thumb. His mouth twisted. "No, trash would be useful." Calla lifted the brush with 2 fingers. "This thing has survived 3 wars." "And lost all of them," Noah said. For the first time that morning, Devrin almost smiled. Then he took in the square properly, not as a place ruined by a party, but as a job too big for children and too ugly for anyone important to touch. The joke slipped out of his face. In its place came the hard, measuring look Noah had seen around breaker crews when a tunnel sagged wrong and everyone else waited for someone stronger to decide where to start. "All right," Devrin said. "We start near the drain trench, work downhill. If we scrub from the stalls first, all the filth runs back over clean stone." Noah blinked. "You have a strategy for vomit?" "I have a strategy for not doing the same work twice." Devrin grabbed the least broken bucket and shoved it into Noah's hands. "Water, half full. Not because you're lazy, because full sloshes. Calla, scrape the dried stuff loose before Noah wets it down." Calla raised an eyebrow. "Giving orders now?" "Saving us from dying here." They lasted almost an hour before the laughter came from across the square. A group of older boys crossed toward them in gray and white breaker patches, the clean crossed hammers bright against shirts still powdered with quarry dust. One of them slowed when he saw Noah kneeling beside the drain trench with a bucket between his boots. "Well, look at that," the boy called. "Hale's got little muck hands now." Another laughed, nodding toward Calla. "Careful. That one looks like she bites." Calla did not look up. Her scraper dragged once across the stone, slow and ugly. Noah's hand tightened around the bucket handle. Then Devrin shifted beside them. The first boy's grin faltered when he recognized him. His face took in Devrin's broad shoulders, the scraper in his hand, the grime on his knees. "Oh," he said, quieter now. "Didn't see you there, Carr." One of the others snorted before he could stop himself. "Didn't know Gunner's boy was taking Hale cleanup." The silence changed. Devrin's scraper stopped against the stone. Noah expected a grin, a joke, the big loud answer that made everything bounce off. But Devrin only stared at the dirty water running along the trench. The older boy seemed to realize he had stepped too close to something. He shrugged, trying to recover. "Guess work's work." "Yeah," Devrin said without looking up. "It is." The breaker boys moved on, laughing again, but softer this time. Their boots left pale quarry dust across the section Devrin had just cleaned. Calla stared at the tracks for a moment. Then she clicked her tongue. "Sloppy." Devrin's scraper paused. "What?" She nodded toward the dust. "They walked quarry grit over wet stone. It'll turn to paste if you let it sit." Noah glanced at her. "You know that?" "I know when people make a mess worse and call it work." For 1 second, Devrin only stared at the tracks. Then a laugh broke out of him, short and unwilling. He shook his head and dragged the scraper through the dust. "She's not wrong." "I'm almost never wrong," Calla said. Noah opened his mouth. Calla turned toward him. "Careful." He closed it again. Devrin pointed the scraper at him. "Smartest thing you've done all week." He pushed himself to his feet and grabbed the cracked bucket. We need more water before this dries. Half full, Noah said. Deverin's mouth flattened. I know how water works. Do you? Deverin muttered something under his breath and headed toward the pump line. When he was gone, the square felt too open again. Calla kept brushing grit toward the drain trench. Noah crouched beside her, scraping at a stain that had sunk deep into the stone. For a while, neither of them spoke. Then Calla said, I wasn't mad because you stood up to Jessie. Noah's scraper slowed. She still wasn't looking at him. I was mad because you made it about bleeding. His mouth went dry. I didn't know how else to make him stop. I know. Her brush moved through the grit in short, careful strokes. That's the problem. I thought you hated me. Calla finally glanced at him. Don't be stupid. She looked back to the stone. I was angry. That's different. Noah swallowed. Still? A little. Calla pushed a clump of wet dust into the trench. Less than yesterday. His hand drifted toward his pocket, where the old Vanguard insignia sat heavy and cold against his leg. Calla noticed. Of course she did. You didn't lose it, she said. No, Noah said, trying not to sound offended. Good. Her mouth twitched, barely. Would have been annoying if I stole it for nothing. Before Noah could answer, Deverin came back with the bucket sloshing against his leg. Pump lines packed with people who suddenly forgot how to move. Calla took the bucket from him and checked the water level. You listened. Deverin pointed at Noah. He made it sound official. Noah almost smiled. This time, Calla did too. The first day dragged. By the end of it, Noah's knees ached. His hands smelled like sour ale no matter how many times he rinsed them, and Deverin had declared war on every bad tool Marcus Hale had given them. The second day was worse, mostly because Deverin started taking the work personally. He sorted the scrapers by edge, threw one brush aside as an insult to labor, and spent 10 minutes explaining why cleaning downhill mattered, while Noah and Calla stared at him like he had started speaking old-world code. By the third day, Calla had turned it into a system. She found which stains lifted with ash paste, which needed hot water, and which ones were better scraped dry before they spread. She marked finished sections with tiny chalk ticks near the drain seams, so small Marcus Hale walked over them twice without noticing. Noah called it cheating. Calla called it not being stupid. By the fourth day, Deverin stopped filling every silence. Noah stopped trying to force jokes into places they did not fit. Calla stopped standing quite so far away from him when they worked the same section of stone. Not close, just not far. That was something. Marcus inspected the trench on the 5th day, stared at a section Deverin had redone twice, and said only, "Missed a corner." Deverin spent the next hour muttering about corners. A week into the detail, the square had started to recognize them the way it recognized cracked steps, bad pipes, and stalls that never opened on time. Traders stepped around them without looking. Workers complained over their heads. Hale foremen pointed and argued and forgot 3 unchosen kids were close enough to hear. That was when the rumors started coming back. By the 8th day, the workers had stopped lowering their voices around them. Noah was scraping old grease from the stone near the drain trench when 2 scaffold men passed close enough for their words to carry. "I'm telling you, it wasn't just a breach." "What else would it be?" "One of the old roots opened." The second man gave a low, humorless laugh. "Old roots? Sure. Next you'll tell me the first breakers were heroes." "Laugh if you want. My cousin works lower access. Said the sealing teams weren't the only ones down there." Noah's scraper slowed. The first man leaned closer. Vanguard came through with black cases and no markings. Hale clerks pulled route ledgers from storage. Some swear they saw justices near Gamma side. That's lockdown procedure. Not all of it. The second man stopped walking. What's that supposed to mean? The first man's voice dropped. Some are saying the Grand Marshal was there himself. For a second, neither of them moved. Then the second man scoffed. Too loud. That's tunnel rot talking. Grand Marshal Vale has bigger worries than Sector Gamma nonsense. Maybe, the first man muttered, but they don't send men like that for nonsense. The workers moved on, their voices swallowed by the scrape of tools and dripping water. Calla was still brushing grit toward the trench, but her hand had stopped moving. Noah pretended not to notice. Devrin pretended worse. For the rest of the shift, all three kept their heads down, scraping ale-sticky grit into the trenches, while the rumor sat between them like a sealed door. By the time the detail broke and the foreman stopped watching, none of them needed to say where they were going. The forgotten maintenance alcove sat 3 turns past the old pump corridor, tucked behind a rusted pressure door that no longer sealed right. Most adults had forgotten it existed. The 3 of them had not. It was small, cold, and crowded with the same dented crates and dead gauges that had been there since they were little. Once they had used the place for games. Tonight it felt better suited for bad ideas. Noah sat on one of the crates, turning the Vanguard insignia over and over in his palm. Devrin leaned against a rusted support beam with his arms crossed. No. Noah looked up. I didn't even say anything. You had the look. What look? The one where we end up running from someone with keys. Calla sat on the floor near the back wall, knees drawn up, the handbow resting across her lap. She had been quiet since they arrived. Too quiet. Her thumb moved once along the handbow's string, then stopped. Noah closed his fingers around the badge. Those workers weren't talking like it was just a breach. Devrin let out a sharp breath. Workers say a lot of things. Hale route ledgers, justices, black cases with no markings. Noah leaned forward. And old routes opening. Devrin frowned. What does that even mean? I don't know. Noah looked between them. That's the point. Calla stayed quiet. Noah turned the badge in his hand again, the worn sword catching the weak light leaking through the bent door seam. A breach is one thing. We know what people say about breaches. Sealing teams go in. Vanguard locks the place down. Everyone pretends they aren't scared. Devrin's jaw tightened. Sounds like a good reason not to go near it. Noah pressed. Why would any of that matter if it was just a hole they needed sealed? The alcove went quiet, except for the slow drip of water somewhere behind the wall. Devrin looked toward Calla. Tell him this is stupid. Calla did not answer right away. Her fingers had closed around the frame of the handbow, not hard enough to shake, but hard enough that her knuckles showed pale. Finally, she said, It's stupid. Noah stared at her. You too? Calla lifted her head then, sharp and closed. Gamma is sealed. Vanguard are there. Justices might be there. Hale has access men crawling through every lower route. Her voice stayed flat. So yes, walking toward that is stupid. I didn't say we walk into Gamma. You were going to. Noah opened his mouth, then shut it. Devrin pointed at him. See? Look at that. That's your guilty face. Noah ignored him and turned back to Calla. You heard them. Something happened down there. Something crossed her face too quickly to name. Then it was gone. A lot happened down there, she said. The words were quiet enough that neither boy answered. Noah let the silence sit for a moment. He knew better than to step on that. Sector Gamma was not just a story to Calla. It was the place adults lowered their voices around, the place that had taken her parents and left behind a tunnel collapse no one ever explained the same way twice. That was exactly why he could not leave it alone. "None of it fits," he finally said. "Maybe because it's gossip," Devrin said. "Maybe because someone wants it to sound like gossip." Devrin dragged both hands down his face. "I hate when you do that." "Do what?" "Make the worst answer sound like the only answer." Noah stood from the crate. Pain tugged faintly at his ribs, but he pushed past it. "I'm not saying we go to Gamma. I'm saying we find out what Hale knows." Calla's thumb brushed the handbow string. Devrin noticed too and groaned. "No, don't start agreeing with him silently." Calla shifted the handbow across her lap. "Hale controls access." Noah nodded. "Doors, work orders, route logs, and punishment details," she added. Devrin looked between them. "We are not using our punishment detail to commit more crimes." Noah ignored him. "We're already supposed to be in the square tomorrow." Calla's thumb brushed the string again. "Near the drain trench." "Near the side corridor," Noah said. "Near Hale's storage," she finished. Devrin stared at them. "Listen to yourselves. You sound like Hagen's worst nightmare had children." Noah almost smiled. "So you're in?" "I didn't say that." "You're still here." "That's because I'm trapped in a rock slide with idiots." Calla picked up a small scrap of chalk from the floor and drew 3 quick lines on the stone between them. The square, the drain trench, the side corridor near the Hale storage office. Noah leaned closer. Devrin stayed where he was for half a second, then cursed under his breath and came over too. Calla tapped the side corridor mark once. "If we leave the trench, Marcus notices." "Not if the trench clogs," Noah said. Devrin blinked. "You want to clog the drain?" "No, I want it to already be clogged." Calla's mouth twitched. "Festival grease." "And fried lichen scraps," Noah added. "And that gray paste from the ale spill," Devrin said before he could stop himself. "I'm not helping. I'm explaining why your bad idea would work." Calla drew a small circle near the storage mark. "If Marcus sends someone for tools, one of us goes." "Noah," Devrin said immediately, "since this is his stupid idea." "No," Calla said. "He looks suspicious when he thinks." Devrin pointed at her. "That is the truest thing you've ever said." Noah frowned. "I do not." "You do," they said together. Noah looked down at the chalk lines. "We don't go to Gamma." Devrin let out a breath. "Good." Noah tapped the Hale storage mark Calla had drawn. "We find out why everyone else is afraid of it." Calla stared at the map for a long moment. Then she picked up the chalk and made the circle darker. Devrin gave one last hard look at the circle. "If this goes bad, we run. No speeches, no proving anything."